Imagine your city is thriving. Trade is good. Everyone's making money. The buildings are clean. The canals are cute in a way that makes you feel like your life could just be really wonderful here.
Delft is giving scrapbook but historically accurate feel.
Exactly. And then inside the city, someone stores an unreasonable amount of gunpowder inside the city.
That is like keeping a live bear in your pantry because it's convenient.
Or parking a wagon full of fireworks in your living room because you like easy access.
Why walk outside when you can explode indoors?
And then one day, Delft goes boom.
Not like, whoops, I dropped a plate boom. Like, did the sky crack boom?
People far away felt it. They heard it. They panicked. And Delft becomes a before and after kind of city. We need to start with the most important question. Because if you don't ask this question, history wins.
The question is, why in the name of common sense is a giant gunpowder stash inside a city?
Yes, Delft had a powder magazine, basically a storage facility for gunpowder.
Or as I like to call it, a municipal surprise machine.
Gunpowder in the 1600s is a really big deal. It's defense. It's military readiness. It's a strategic resource. If you're in charge of the city, you want it available.
So you don't want it 30 miles away in a swamp where you'd have to schedule a pickup.
You are correct. You want control. You want access. You want to protect it from theft.
Which is ironic because the way you protect it is by putting it near all your people and buildings.
Right. And here's the mindset difference. Today, we're trained to think in terms of zoning, safety codes, hazard buffers.
Keep the boom stuff away from the non-boom stuff.
Exactly. But early modern cities didn't always work that way. Cities were tighter, and the acceptable risk was different.
Also, humans are amazing at ignoring danger if it has been quiet for a long time.
That is a key point. If the powder magazine has existed for years without detonating, it starts to feel normal.
It becomes city furniture. Like, oh yeah, that's a big building full of explosive dust. Anyway, buy your bread here.
And Delft is not a random village. This is a prosperous Dutch city during the Dutch Golden Age, one of the most commercially powerful periods in Europe.
So they're confident. Maybe too confident.
The Dutch Republic in the 1600s is trading, shipping, expanding, building. The cities are busy. And with trade comes infrastructure, warehouses, storage, materials, and yes, gunpowder.
I want to zoom in on the phrase stored inside city walls, because that just sounds like intentional decision.
It is. City walls are about defense and control, and keeping something inside walls meant it's protected and accessible.
But also, if it goes wrong, congratulations, you've exploded your own city.
Yes, it's a trade-off, and history is full of trade-offs that look reasonable until they become a crater.
So that's the setup. A well-run, beautiful city, and somewhere inside it, the ingredients for a disaster waiting patiently.
A disaster with a very, very short fuse.
Or no fuse at all.
Right? Let's talk about Delft for a second, because the whiplash matters.
We're setting up the before.
Delft is one of those places that looks like a painting.
Because it literally ends up in paintings.
Correct. It has brick buildings with steep gables, canals, clean streets compared to some other cities, and culture that values craft. You have merchants, artisans, and rising middle class.
People are like, my house should have taste.
And the Dutch Golden Age isn't a moment where art is just for kings. It's for people with money and walls.
We don't have a palace, but we do have a hallway that needs a masterpiece.
Precisely. And Delft is part of that world. It's a city with artists, and not just fringe artists, people who are generally significant in Dutch history.
So the city has this reputation. Calm, refined, productive, tasteful.
And then, without warning, it experiences what is basically an urban detonation event.
Here's what kills me. People woke up that morning with normal plans.
Normal errands.
Gonna buy fish, gonna deliver cloth, Gonna paint a quiet interior scene with a window.
Sure.
Nobody wakes up and writes in their journal, "Today I'll experience the loudest thing I've ever heard."
And that's why disasters like this hit so hard in memory, because they interrupt normal life with pure physics.
Physics is such a rude guest.
It truly is. Now we get to the moment where the whole city unknowingly stands on the edge of a cliff.
The moment where some poor person goes to do their job.
Someone responsible for the powder goes to check the magazine.
That job description's insane. Responsibilities include inventory, security, and not accidentally detonating the city.
The details in retelling vary. Exactly what action happened inside, what was the ignition source.
Which makes sense because after an explosion, nobody's like, let's calmly reconstruct the exact angle of the spark.
Exactly. But the theme is consistent. Something small, something that would be harmless anywhere.
Like a candle.
Or friction.
Or just life.
Yeah, but in a room filled with gunpowder, stored in significant quantity, that small thing becomes a huge catastrophe.
I'm imagining the caretaker being like, okay, everything looks good. And the gunpowder being like, yeah, is it though?
And then this is where time becomes a single frame.
Yep.
The powder ignites, and the Delft Thunderclap happens.
Such a dramatic name. Thunderclap. Like the city got slapped by the sky.
That's what people were trying to describe. It wasn't a bang. It wasn't even a blast.
It was the world has made a new sound.
100%. The building doesn't politely break. It doesn't partially collapse.
It turns into energy.
And that energy becomes a wave that moves outward through the city.
Like an instant storm made of pressure.
When we say explosion, people imagine one building.
Oh no, the warehouse went up.
This wasn't that. This was city scale.
Delft briefly tried space travel.
The blast flattened whole blocks. Whole blocks.
That is not oops. That's a rewrite.
Roofs collapsed, walls failed, streets became rubble, debris becomes airborne.
And it's not soft debris. It's brick, wood beams, whatever's inside buildings. Furniture, doors, tiles, everything.
And in a dense city, those materials become projectiles.
Which is one of the most terrifying things about big explosions. The blast is one thing, and then the city becomes shrapnel.
Exactly.
It's like the city gets punched from the inside.
And for the people nearby, it's instant. You don't get warning.
You get then and now.
And the sound? People called it a thunderclap because that's the closest natural comparison.
Like thunder, but if thunder also rearranged your neighborhood.
Yep.
And I can't stop thinking about the moment after. Like that split second where your ears are ringing and your brain is trying to understand what just happened.
That moment is described in so many disasters. The did I die moment?
The why is the air different moment.
Exactly. One of the most wild details is how far away this event was felt.
Which is the historical version of your phone buzzing with a "did you hear that" text, except it's 1654, so it's just screaming.
People at a distance heard it and thought something enormous happened.
Like a naval battle, like the earth splitting, like God dropping a skillet.
Uh-huh. Some people thought it was an attack. Others thought it was some kind of natural disaster.
Because your mind goes to the biggest explanation available.
And it wasn't only heard, it was felt. A pressure wave can travel. It can rattle structures. It can physically impact people.
So if you're miles away, you might still feel the air punch you.
Yes. And when you look towards Delft, you see the rising smoke and dust.
That image is chilling. A calm landscape, and then a giant bruise of smoke on the horizon.
And again, the comedic part is the disbelief. Like, can you believe this just happened? But the reality is that this trauma was traveling through the air.
And it instantly becomes gossip, fear, rumor, and emergency, all at once.
Of course, and people would rush towards or away, depending upon what they thought was happening.
If I'm miles away and I hear that, I'm probably doing the, freeze and stare thing.
Me too. In Delft itself, the immediate aftermath is chaos.
And this is the part where the comedy has to share the room with reality.
Buildings are down, streets are blocked, there's dust everywhere, fine powder, smoke, debris.
People are shouting names.
People are trying to find family. Neighbors dig with their hands because tools are scarce in the first seconds.
And you have fires, possibly because explosions like this don't just destroy, they can ignite.
Yes, and injure people everywhere.
Which is a part you never see in the cute history fact version.
Exactly. Disaster stories can become quirky summaries, but the real event is pain and confusion.
So how many people died?
The exact number reported varies depending upon source and how they counted. Some accounts give lower numbers, some higher.
Because record keeping plus chaos equals uncertainty.
That is correct. But what's consistent is that it was a significant loss of life, and it included everyday citizens, workers, families, and also artists.
Which is the part that makes the story feel culturally tragic, in a different way too.
Yeah, it's not that the artists are more important than others.
Right.
It's that their deaths are a reminder this wasn't contained. The blast reached into the social fabric of the city.
Like the explosion didn't just smash bricks, it ripped a hole in the city's talent and memory. One notable casualty is often reported to be the Delft painter, Karel Fabritus, who was working in the area. The name rings a bell for art people.
And yes, whether or not listeners know the name, the point is that creative life and everyday life were not separate, but they share the same street, same buildings, same danger.
So the explosion wasn't just property damage, it was a cultural scar.
Very much so.
Also, I just want to acknowledge, people in 1654 did not have modern emergency services.
No, they didn't. There were no paramedics. There was no network. There was no coordinated disaster response the way we understand it today.
So the response is community, local officials, improvisation.
Yes, and that means the first hours are raw.
Can we zoom out for 1 second and talk about how insane human risk tolerance is?
Please.
Because somebody at some point said, yes, let's store gunpowder in the city.
Right?
It's not just a little, it's enough to flatten blocks. I mean, it's like if your town decided to store a lightning storm inside of a shed.
And everyone just walks past like, it's a nice shed.
Humans do this all the time. We get used to danger if it's quiet.
Of course, we start to normalize the risk. We accept it as background. It becomes invisible.
Until it isn't.
Exactly. And the Delft Thunderclap is a brutal example of the moment risk becomes visible.
The risk introduces itself loudly.
Very loudly.
Okay, now we have to tackle the nickname you gave it, because I'm stuck on it.
The Mona Lisa of explosions phrasing is a modern way of saying its disaster became iconic, partly because it was captured visually, especially in Dutch art.
So the explosion leaves behind not only rubble, but images.
Yes, so the Dutch Golden Age, the artists were masters of light, perception, texture. And when those skills get applied to ruins, you end up with something eerie.
Beauty made out of destruction.
Yes. Some artists created detailed cityscape images after the events. Ruins, dust, collapsed architecture.
That is so Dutch Golden Age. Like, we'll document your trauma with perfect lighting.
It sounds harsh, but it's also preservation. Cities rebuild. People forget details. But paintings freeze a moment.
Which is why we're talking about this in 2026.
Exactly.
There's something almost surreal about that. Somebody standing there with charcoal being like, this angle is best.
And you know what? That's being human. We try to make meaning out of chaos. We try to record it. We try to understand it.
Also, artists are wired differently. They're like, yes, this is horrifying, but look at that contrast.
100%. Let's talk mechanics for a second, because flat blocks is a phrase that sounds abstract.
Like blocks could be 2 houses or a whole neighborhood.
So in a dense city, blocks included tightly packed buildings, very narrow streets, shared walls, and structure built in a way that don't handle sudden pressure well.
So you have a domino effect.
In all essence, yes. An explosion creates a pressure wave. The pressure finds weak points, walls, roofs, windows, and it pushes.
And brick is strong until it isn't.
You are correct again. Brick and mortar can handle weight, but sudden lateral force can crack it, collapse it.
And then roofs come down.
And once the roofs and the walls fall, you get more debris, you get more injuries, and inevitably you get more chaos.
It's like the city becomes a pile of sharp objects.
And the other aspect is shockwave energy. It can travel down streets like a corridor.
Streets become tunnels for pressure.
Exactly. And that's why urban explosions can have a weird pattern of damage. Some areas devastated, others partially spared, depending upon angles and barriers.
So someone could be standing behind a thick wall and survive, while someone in open space gets hit by flying stuff.
And that randomness is part of what makes it so traumatic.
Because afterwards, survivors ask, why them? Why not me?
It's so unfortunate.
And then there's the emotional effect. Your familiar street is gone.
And that is huge. The city isn't just buildings. It's memory. It's landmarks. It's routes. I'm safe because I know where I'm at feeling.
Suddenly you don't know where you are inside your own home city.
Yes.
All right, can we talk about the rumor situation?
Of course.
Because in 1654, you don't have news alerts. You have panic delivery.
Precisely. People hear a massive boom and immediately guess.
The Spanish attacked. A ship exploded. The devil sneezed.
And that matters because rumors shape response. People either run towards to help, or they run away to survive, or they freeze because they think an invasion is underway.
You also have a social effect. Cities watch each other.
Yes, Delft is part of a network of Dutch cities. News travels by messenger. It travels by boat.
So within hours, other cities are hearing, something terrible happened.
And within days, the story becomes a legend, especially because the sound was so memorable.
Kind of story that becomes a where were you when moment.
And we've been joking because the setup is absurd. Gunpowder in the city. But we can't lose the human center.
People died. Families lost homes. Entire lives got erased in seconds.
Survivors carried injuries and grief. And for a city that's prized stability and prosperity, this is a wound.
This is one of those events where history is not a story. It's a bunch of real people having the worst day imaginable.
Understatement of the decade. Now, we get to the part that's easy to skip, but it actually matters. Delft rebuilds.
Which sounds simple until you remember rebuilding is politics and money and trauma.
Exactly. When an event wipes out whole sections, you have choices. Do you rebuild exactly as before?
Or do you change the layout? Wider streets, different spacing, different placement of crucial buildings.
Right? And major disasters often trigger changes. even if it's not immediately formalized as building codes.
Because everyone's suddenly motivated by fear and memory.
Right. The rebuilt city carries the scar in its map, and it's not only emotional, it's physical.
There's something strange about that. A city's future architecture shaped by one violent day.
And that's what turning points do. They force decisions. They force redesign.
Like the city itself is saying, we can't pretend this didn't happen.
Exactly.
So what's the takeaway, besides don't store your apocalyptic supplies in your downtown?
I think the deeper lesson is about risk and proximity. When you store dangerous materials near people, you're creating a disaster potential.
And the longer it doesn't happen, the more you convince yourself it won't happen.
Exactly. Normalization.
We've always done it this way.
And the universe says, not today.
Also, Delft reminds us that disasters aren't always natural. Sometimes they're built.
Yes, decisions create conditions, and conditions determine the scale of consequences.
Which is why, can you believe this happened, is a fair reaction. Because the setup is unbelievable.
But it's also very believable when you realize humans do this constantly.
We store hazards next to ourselves because it's convenient.
Bingo!
So, to recap, Delft is thriving, artsy, gorgeous.
Then it stores massive gunpowder inside the city.
Someone checks on it.
And Delft experiences a blast so loud it becomes a legend.
Blocks flattened, shockwaves felt far away, citizens and artists killed, and the city is rebuilt differently afterward.
And that's the Delft Thunderclap.
Brought to you by GX Works.
Stay curious.
Stay kind.
And maybe
Don't keep your entire city's gunpowder supply inside your city walls.
Good night, David.
Good night, Ren.